Namaste. Last week we read about the Mother's War, Sri Aurobindo's life through his poems. So we read some of the poems related to that. And Sri Aurobindo used Norse mythology because, Germans, Scandinavian, these regions. So Wotan, Thor, all Norse gods he used. So what happened after the war or during the war? So that we read today, but just to mention that it's very interesting. It's the first New Year talk in this series, and today we read about the new children, because and many other new things that happen. Today is also the day when it is the foundation day of the school. The school started. It's called as the day of Epiphany and has a interesting significance. Not just to the Christian world, in the sense that, three Magi's all the way came from East and recognized the divinity of Christ. And they gave him three gifts: gold, myrrh, and frankincense. And the mother has given it significance. Of particular importance is the gift of gold, which she has said is supramental knowledge. So, this one event is very interesting because one is coming from the East. So, otherwise, all the avatars seem to be born in the Indian context. But there are at least two which we know were born in the Western context. And one is, of course, Christ. And the second, of course, people have this idea that how could mother be born in France? So she is the mother of all avatars. So she was born in France. And so it was a tremendous impact, but yet there is a linkage with the East. So that's how I look at this event. That's interesting and importance. That the meaning of this birth was to be revealed through the wise men who came all the way from East. Not going now into it, but around this period, as we know that after great destruction, there is often a new creation. Tanda followed by lasya. And wherever one sees a great destruction, it means God has planned something up his sleeve. He has a penchant for bringing good out of evil. So Second World War was, of course, evil, without a doubt about it. I mean, those who started and wanted to spread it. Those who resisted were actually resisting the evil. So there were these clear-cut two forces. One which was fighting on the side of darkness. It wanted to unite the world. Hitler wanted to unite the world. But his premise was unite through uniformity. There is one race, one ideology, which is the ultimate highest. And on that basis, he wanted to bring the entire world under that. What about the others? They were not to be subordinated but exterminated. So you see how smartly the Asura uses words which you may feel that, this is so wonderful. He is wanting the best, the highest, the shrestha, the noble. And he wants to bring that highest and noblest in the whole world. This is how the Asura plays the game, apparently making us feel that he is doing good of the world, but all the time his eye is on harming its spiritual life. So there were some very interesting messages of the mother which I thought we will read before we start. Well, I didn't think, it just came to me just a moment before. So there was a message she gave during the World War in 41. This is when the war was going on. 39 it had started technically. Now normally when a war is going on, a lot of people are dying physically. So people were wondering about deaths, physical deaths. Just as they are wondering now about physical deaths, so many physical deaths. But there is something else which we should be equally careful about. In trying to save the bodies, are we leading the world towards a spiritual death? This is where the mother's message is significant. 1941, the world is fighting for its spiritual life, menaced by the rush of hostile and undivine forces. And as we have seen, they assume very nice names. The nice names could be we are trying to save. But as we have read in Savitri, their truth was a lie and lie a truth. truth speaking was a stratagem in that place. All the things we are going to see. Now, these things are coming up very openly. How greed, fear, and ambition, three things which are the abysses, they come together to hold the world in its grip. Lord, we aspire to be thy valiant warriors so that thy glory may manifest upon the earth. And I may dare say that just as during that time, at a much larger scale, of course, there were two people taking two sides. One was where they were fighting for the triumph of the spiritual life in man, a life which seeks for freedom, for glory, for all the powers that are concealed within us, for the deeper wisdom, and a life which crushes humanity, reduces it to a rebel with no free thought, no free choice. So all over the world, people make these choices. So even now, it's an hour when people are making choices. And another message, 1944, O Lord, the world implores thee to prevent it from falling back always into the same stupidities. Grant that the mistakes recognized may never be renewed. Grant lastly that its actions may be the exact and sincere expression of its proclaimed ideals. So all this the mother was releasing in the world during this period. But around that time something very interesting was happening, as is always the case. First World War, when things were going in almost towards a near disaster, Sri Aurobindo, what he was doing, he was releasing page after page of light to the dim children of earth were given, the Arya. And 1916, Savitri started taking birth. So this is how the action of the divine goes. Even during this period, it's very interesting that while the world was in the grip of fear, at least I'm aware of people who took this to advantage, and suddenly there was a surge in their spiritual life. So we can either be caught in appearances, in which case we are embroiled in all this. And it's so amazing that how the deeper things come out. The people who apparently, I shouldn't say more, but during this phase were so much in fear, terror. And whereas there are people absolutely seemingly novice, young, who suddenly caught hold of the flame and they grew within. So all this happens simultaneously. So during the Second World War, the mother says that nature came and left a nice gift package at the doorsteps. So what was the gift package? During the war, people came from different parts of the world, but mainly from India, Calcutta and all these places, because they thought, they felt that the only place safe upon earth is Pondicherry. So they came. They came with their bag and baggage. They came with their, children. And actually it is said that the Japanese who wanted to bomb, somehow they, flew past. There are many stories of that period, but we'll not go into that. So when they came with children, the mother took it. She is the divine mother, uses everything for new creation, just like in us. Small tendency, an act, an event, she immediately uses it for the purposes of. In fact, she is the one who first to start with brings it out like the Vaishnavi Maya of Arjuna before he start the war, and then she is the one who resolves it. So similarly, during the war, when these people came apparently out of fear and finding a safe refuge in Pondicherry, the mother took advantage, and these little children were the seeds of a new experiment which one day will grip the whole world. And that experiment is the experiment which we know today as the Sri Aurobindo International Center of Education, SAIC. It's very interesting that the foundation day is today, on 6th of January, which is the day of Epiphany. It's the day when men from the East recognized the divinity of Christ, and they gave him some gifts: frankincense, gold, and myrrh. So now, as simultaneously two things were happening. On one side, the great destruction; on the other side, a process of evolution simultaneously. And if we really look at the ways of working of the mother, and I would rather say even now the similar thing happening in Auroville. The more you side with the evolutionary forces, the better the chances, and you much more swiftly, reduce the onslaught of the adverse forces. So instead of being reacting and acting toward that, just grow in that sense of the spirit. So what she did was precisely that. These children who probably had no clue about the war, they came and initially, of course, it was not a school, but it's a whole story by itself. So not going into that details, but she would ask some sadhaks to talk to the children. Somebody would teach French, somebody would teach something. They needed to play. So, slowly play fields were found, and all that has grown now into a wonderful institution. So, what was happening in the process, the sadhaks, right, during that time, our life underwent a big change. Before that, they would hardly speak to each other because that was the idea of spiritual life. And all of them, if you look at the pictures, men mostly in dhotis, women in saris, many of them from the Indian context, the sari, the way, not the veil, but the covering will be like this. Well, that's how they came. But mother had a plans waiting for the moment, and slowly and slowly, all life began to change. This is a place where the true feminism took birth, not that kind of false feminism where women, imitate men. And I often say that men are not worth imitating. Please. It's a sad truth. And I am saying this with full responsibility. Men have ransacked this earth. You look at history. Very few men figures, but many feminine figures. Wherever they have been leaders in the forefront, they have brought some touch of tenderness, love, courage, everything. So, but men, mostly tyrant kings, some very wonderful vibhutis, and without a doubt about it. So it's, apart from physical strength, women bring in that element, which is soft power, which is so much needed. So she, in the center of education, we see the logo of, first time a new logo appears. And that is the combination of Shri Aurobindo and the mother's symbol. And the meaning for that, the mother gave us the the union of Ishvara and Ishwari, and in its effective manifestations, something to that effect. So it is the manifestation that takes place through the union of Ishvara and Ishwari. So what is this new manifestation? A new manifestation. So what is new about the school? Very often we know that the system is new and all this is new. Okay, wonderful. But there is something else which she started, which is, later on she tells the logic. And what is the logic? That every time human beings are born upon earth, they come with a heavy load of atavism, of heredity, of inconscient surroundings, everything. So by school, it was not just about teaching physics, chemistry, or of course bringing out their noblest and the best. All that is true. But there was simultaneously an action. Till date, often people ask, why in this school, in the beginning you have some 15, 20, whatever seats, I really don't know, seats, they don't call it. But afterwards you have 1 or 2 if somebody leaves. What is the reason why mother kept it like that? Because when you take children young, then before that inconscient can grip it completely, there is a chance of working upon it. It's not easy though. So once a teacher asked mother, 150 students and just about 7 of them are, we can feel that spark and, turning towards this greater light. She said, 7 out of 150, that's very good, tremendous. Why? Because the working is different. The working was on the inconscient base, and that's why such importance of physical education. Because where does the inconscient base really grip us? It grips us in the body. The body is the last bastion of inconscient. You may have wonderful experiences inside. You may have all the faith and everything wonderful. Still the body, it will one day enter through some molecular doors and some odd instinct, habit, accident, so many things. Body is emerged out of the inconscient. It is the last bastion of the forces of the darkness. So she wanted to start very early. That's why it is a very interesting school where right from beginning, from 3 years of age when they enter, 3 or 4, I remember 3, physical education of some kind starts. Everything else is secondary. I mean, the only place where they wear uniforms, the only place which is given so much importance, which is like a compulsory thing, is physical education. And why? Because as we read in one of the, I think, writings of Sri Aurobindo, that how this inconscient base, as long as the body consciousness is not awakened and not open to the light, this light will come but stop at a point of time. It will not completely possess earth. And that's what she didn't want. And when the school started, Sadhak's life began to change. That also happened. All these people suddenly were once again filled with joy and wonder, a new kind of life. Many things happened. Otherwise, very serious people around, when they saw that the mother is laughing with children, playing Ringa Ringa Roses in her own room. And children, it's not like today, they used to play it in the downstairs, where now there is a meditation room. So I have heard this right from the authentic children, who said only once mother came. I asked her that, but tell me, like people almost now it's like, looks like if there is a word or something, somebody is ready to pounce upon you. And so what was it like? He said, no, we used to play there. So mother didn't scold. Only once he came down, and that too not to scold. She said, Pavitra rests at this time, and he gets a little disturbed because he was not well. He was suffering. He was going through bone cancer. So only once. Otherwise, they used to play there. They used to play all around, run around the places. So for the sadhakas, it was something very new kind of life which was blossoming. They could see and participate in the formation of the new creation in two-way process, not only within, but the march of creation which is going to go forward. So she gave a very nice message, which very often it is there on the notebooks which are given in the school. There are many beautiful things about the school. For instance, no teacher is paid, no student is charged money. Why? Because education, mother said, was never sold in India. When I had heard this, I was so touched that it needed her to reveal to us what was the real meaning of Guru Dakshina. Now, the meaning of Guru Dakshina is that you can never pay for education, knowledge. Knowledge is priceless. You can't put a price tag to it. But, somebody who has imparted knowledge, he will be fine if you don't give. But it was obligatory on the side of the society. One, to look after, at the same time, the disciples, because to carry the debt of the teacher, and I may add, because it's there in an Ayurveda book, of the doctor, was regarded as the worst kind of debt. So for a doctor also, a doctor charging money is so strange, And you see what happens when you start charging money, and how all this now it is all known that how people involved with vaccination, so many times the cost and how it has escalated their share value and everything. It's all now there on the public domain. But when you don't have charge for it, when it is up to the person to give you as an offering or not, then life changes. So for Guru Dakshina, it was so wonderful that the student can pay by himself if he wishes. In the ashram school, mother did not even want donations for the school. It's something amazing. Just the very base is so high. Forget about the rest. The standard is so high. So when these children started, the mother has given a prayer to these children. Again, exact words, but more or less, make of us the hero warriors we aspire to become. May we fight successfully the great battle of the future, that is to be born against the past that resists and endures, so that the new things may manifest and we be ready to receive them. So she was not just having children, having degrees. They were soldiers of light, hero warriors. Of course, we have a wonderful way of doing things. So the notebooks carry this on the cover, which are covered. So I found it very, very strange. I mean, because that's supposed to be read. You cover it with transparent plastic. You know why? Because it carries a impact all the time. When you read this prayer every time, you find it so powerful. So when you cover it with a brown paper, you have lost the... But that apart. So with regard to children, there are few poems of Sri Aurobindo One is to a child, Vasanti, on her birthday, where he says there are different kind of flowers in God's garden. There you find seeds of free progress system. There are different kinds of flowers in God's garden. He says some are red, crimson, some are purple. So he gives the analogy of the garden, and then he says that, but you are the tender one. You are meant for something different. Where he actually gives us a kind of, in a poetic way, what free progress really means, where each child is guided by his soul. This is what free progress means. Now, this is exactly what was meant originally by Swadharma. You can't pick up everybody and teach everybody the same thing. Swadharma, the soul's true law of being. So teachers were supposed to be so evolved that they could know the Swadharma of the child and accordingly guide. So what was she establishing? The old wonderful system of Gurukul, but in its most highest form. So that the divine possibility, what is teaching by Swadharma? The divine possibility within you is manifested. It has nothing to do with giving a job, by giving a degree, but everybody has a divine possibility, bring it out. And let it be given for the best of the world or in the service of the divine. So that's what it meant to do. So this prayer was given, and she was preparing them to fight the great battle of the future at different levels. At the level of the idea, at the level of the heart, at the level of the vital, at the level of the body. And then there is another poem of Sri Aurobindo which is about a child's imagination, how he sees. He sees a child and he says, "You are fancying pure." And mother would say, we often, snub a child when a child is living in his imaginative world, because we say, oh, it's on unreal. Our idea of reality is what I can see, what I can hear. This is the trap, that only what I can see and touch is real. In the last talk of the mother in the playground, she says, as long as you believe that what you see is real, what you hear is real, you are not ready for freedom. You are in the prison house. You're not even ready. So, in fact, there are so many things which look like, and yet are so real. So, all these new things he started in the school, but what the poem that I thought I'll read today is, with reference to the school, is Bugles of Light. So, Bugles of Light is a very amazing poem. It gives us the sense of the hero warrior. So, there are bugles which in a war time, they announce that a new army is coming. Army of light, the omnipotent flaming pioneers that Sri Aurobindo saw in Savitri. Now, I must say, because the human mind is a penchant for cutting things in either or, it does not mean that only children who are studying in the school are belonging to that. It doesn't mean that very clearly. But this was and is an experiment where she picked up those children who came to start from the very, when they're little children, so that the inconscient can be worked upon. But such children who are coming all over the world. And without a doubt, and Mother herself testified to some of the people who came. So, they are the hero warriors, and they are announcers of light, that light is coming, bugles of light. So the army of light is coming. And by the power of the bugle, they chase away the darkness. That was the whole purpose, that they inspire. Bugles of light, blare through the mist and the darkness. Children of immortality, we march through the abyss and the shadow. Over us hustle the feet of the fates and the wings of Erinnys. In front is the screech of the death horn. Behind the red-eyed monster hunts and howls the tornado. So it is a formidable fight, because the inconscient doesn't give away so easily. Our steps search for the road and find the morass and the pitfall. So they are looking for, they are beings of transition. They will look for the new way. It's very interesting that often, especially in the context of the new creation, let me not put it in a space, you will see that there are a group of children or, now grown up little bit, who are like breakaway from humanity. They don't follow the human ways, they don't follow the human norms. But they don't yet have the new creation and what it would mean. So they are like the pathfinders, like the first human beings who were born amongst the apes. Imagine what they would have felt. I look like this fellow, but I'm different. They knew they are different, but they didn't know how they are different. There were no computers. They were much, much less. In fact, they were more in number. They had to first survive. That's what the mother says, that one of the challenges for the new creation will be that the aspect they will need of the supramental power is protection, because otherwise there will be a tendency to overrun them by sheer numbers. What must be happening to human beings who came upon earth with the apes and the lions? All of them also must have thought, this fellow, so much less than me. But something in man made them feel this is different. There was just that little something. And the mother says animals catch it. And what is it? Says the gleam in the eyes. You look into the eyes of the animal, any animal, and look into the eyes of man and you'll see the difference. And even you can shine a torch at night and you'll see the difference. So in human eyes, there is a tendency that you can go as if you can go into the depths. And in animal eyes, it will reflect the light in a certain way. And if you look into it, you will realize. In fact, the eyes reflect a lot. In animal kind, you can almost know. And to my little experience, observation, the eyes that come close to human beings are cow eyes. Try to look into the eyes of a cow. So eyes, all that they knew is this fellow, eyes are different. They knew nothing about intelligence, capacities, mind and all that. And eventually men continued, animal world receded, and humanity is where it is today. Same thing with this new creation. So all that the old creation know that they are different. They can't understand. Perhaps they will never understand. Would an ape ever understand a human world? They are not normative. So according to ape, the human being is an anomaly. But basically, human beings were meant to be. So too now with the children of the new creation, they will not be understood by the old ways of life. And yet, they are the future of the earth. So she was gathering the future and training them right from childhood so that the inconscient resistance can be minimized and the new possibilities spring up. Follow the gleam to the city of God and the pavements of dream. How beautiful it is. Bugles of light, shatter the heart of the darkness. So it's an invitation. It was an invitation. Still is, I am sure. She says that all those who want to find a new way of life are welcome here. Now, very interestingly, how she was working on atavism, heredity, all these things hold back. So one of the things she was never much in favor of, the parental influence upon children. And she would often say it is an atavism. She was so much happier that the parents remain wherever they are. They leave the children. We'll take care of them. And children grew up like that. Because parents will automatically once again try to force them into the mold. Some parents are different. But again, that same ambition, the same things as happens outside. The outside norms, the manners, all these things which are nothing but a heap of falsehood. Whereas these children are meant to be different. So these were the bugles of light. That was one event. As I said, we are not going into all the details that we have dealt with separately. This about Sri Aurobindo's life. This started during that time, and it's very interesting that the first time the March past took place, when the physical education department came into being, and first March past, where they went to Sri Aurobindo's room, 24th April. That's why 24th April is such an important day. It's the coming together of Ishvara and Ishwari permanently. So in the March past, children went up to Sri Aurobindo's room and walked past him and then came down. What a marvel it must be for those who were present. I mean, of course, I've been fortunate to meet some of them, and it's such a wonderful joy. Though as children, for them it was like, great thing. Okay, we are going in front of Sri Aurobindo and coming back. That's it. But just imagine what would have been. So this was one new thing that happened during the war. The second gift, of course, mother says that this was a gift bit premature. She says that we were not prepared for it. And this life with coming of children meant coming of parents. And this was something, parents means married couple. Before that, there is nothing like a married couple. They can come, but they are individuals. They can come. Husband, wife can come, but they are no more husband and wife. Husband, find your place. If you are a disciple, you want to follow the path. Wife, do you want to follow the path independently? You have your place. So there are very interesting stories. One of them, which, a couple came and the man goes and tells mother, I understand life divine and all these, and my wife, she doesn't understand much, she's not much educated. So the mother first scolded him. It's your responsibility. Why didn't you educate her? You can't say that she is not educated. So all this happened. Then what happened is that this man after 10 days wants to go. He came for a visit, had darshan, living in that life divine wisdom, scholarly and not life divine is wonder. So he came, chalo, let's go. Suddenly the wives are supposed to follow. She said, I don't want to go. What? You don't want to go? No, I don't want to go. What had happened was she was a bhakta of goddess Ambaji. So when they are standing in the queue, she simply said, this is, she is mother. So she invoked Ambaji goddess and waiting for mother, stopped her work and looked at her. And 3 times she did. And mother stopped her work and looked at her. She knew she is the mother, divine mother. That's all. She applied the simplest formula of the heart. So she knew she is the divine mother. She said, I am not going to go away. So just imagine, eventually the man goes away and the wife stays back, who is supposed to be illiterate and or rather uneducated. So this was her ways, but it was individual. It was not like husband, wife. Yes, there were couples like Purani ji, Lilavati, they were couples. But they were living as independent individuals. So this was the state at that point of time. Now suddenly when couples come, who are living together, a life which means all kinds of things are included, it's a different life altogether of Grahast life. She says, we were not ready for this. We had to enter this, maybe after some time. But she says, we had to enter into it prematurely. But doesn't matter. It means that the yoga will maybe delayed for, by another 30 years, 20, 30 years, but eventually it will be more complete. You read that conversation, it's so amazing. Eventually it will be more complete. So she took the whole thing challenge prematurely, and that's how it started. So this was one of the things that took place around that time. And another thing that happened just after the war was another new birth. And that was India was reborn. India did not become independent. Because India is the most ancient civilization. And I want to read how Sri Aurobindo saw India rising, and he had foreseen all this in 1909, that the sun of India's destiny will rise and overflow India and overflow Asia and overflow the world. And the gift again came on his birthday, 15th August, and this year we are celebrating the 2 events, Sri Aurobindo's 150th year and India's 75th year. What did he want India to? Rise towards. To combine the glory of the past as a springboard, to move toward the future, towards yet greater glories, which are yet to be won. So that the coming generations within India, they become pathfinders towards a new creation, which the Vedic rishis were trying, they hinted. But this is the generation which has to find. So there is a beautiful poem of Sri Aurobindo, To the Ganges. And personally, I feel you want to understand India, 3 things one must understand. The Himalaya, the Ganges and the ocean around. This is, and especially Himalaya and the Ganges. So they are like the Purusha and Prakriti, one flowing from the other. This is India. Of course, the Ganges everywhere, you have Dakhin Ganga, all those things. But just the way Indian civilization developed. So there is a poem, To the Ganges, where first he describes all the path of the Ganges, how it comes through the Aryavarth and how the iron Bhishma was the sun. It's a long poem, but I just want to read the last few lines. That Ganges, the power of Ganges, the purifying Ganges, which embodies in a sense the quintessence of India, Himalayas and the Ganges. So the last lines are, which is what India will become. this foreseen by Sri Aurobindo, and he is working for it, and more, children will come for this. She shall lead the Aryan people to the mighty doom foretold, and her glory shall endure. By her heart of quick emotion, by her brain of living fire, by her vibrant speech and great, she shall lead them. They shall see their destiny in her warm desire, opening all the doors of fate. By the shores of Brahmaputra, or where Ganges nears the sea, even now a flame is born. Ganges near the sea, Dakshineshwar, and of course where Sri Aurobindo himself is born. But look at this line, is so powerful. By the shores of Brahmaputra, or where Ganges nears the sea, even now a flame is born, which shall kindle all the south to brilliance, and the north shall be lighted up as with the morn. And once more, now comes the prophetic part, and once more this Aryavarth, fit for heavenly feet to tread, free and holy, bold and wise, shall lift up her face before the world, and she whom men thought dead, into strength immortal rise. This prophecy that he has made way back, that people thought dead. India of the ages is not dead, said Sri Aurobindo. Oh, India. Even now there are people who, continue. I was just reading today. Very interesting. See, now when you look certain things, how funny it appears. So, there is a paper of the London Times, a news published after Swami Vivekananda's death. So-called death. So, the paper writes that, that person died, whom for some reason in the West they thought, some strange people in America were very enchanted by whatever he is saying. It was like, but such people who came to him will come like the waters and go away by the waters. That is the kind of language used. That, people have made him too much, but we should not bother. There are people like him, whom people go like water and flow away like water. That's it. And people felt so highly about him, but it's like nothing much. Now, the paper London Times, we don't even know where it stands. The man who wrote is gone, dead and gone. London itself, the London Bridge is falling now. The whole England is as if, sinking. But Swami Vivekananda's glory is rising day by day. This is the power that India wields. It is not a physical power, not even a moral and intellectual power, which is there, but she wields the spiritual force which is undying and which survives the onslaught of the centuries. So that's what he is saying. Even now a flame is born which shall kindle all the south to brilliance, and the north shall be lighted up as with the morn, and once more this Aryavarta, fit for heavenly feet to tread, free and holy, bold and wise, shall lift up her face before the world, and she whom men thought dead, into strength immortal rise. Not in icy lone Gangotri, nor by Kashi's holy fanes, Mother, hast thou power to save. So it's not just a few people here and there in the holy places, the tirthas. Only, nor dost thou grow old near Sagar, nor our vileness stains Ganges, thy celestial wave. Dakshineshwar, Dakshineshwar, wonderful predestined pile, tell it to our sons unborn, where the night was brooding darkest, and the curse was on the soil heaviest, God revealed the morn. It's again, I find, almost prophetic. He revealed the morn. One is Dakshineshwar and then birth of Sri Aurobindo. So, where the night was darkest, suddenly that's where in Bengal the entire revolution initially shaped up because of the pressure of the Shakti. It is a different story that Bengal could not bear the pressure of the Shakti. That's a different thing, because if you don't grow in strength or only try to grow in little bit of intellectual strength, it collapses. You collapse under its weight. But this is the prophecy about India. India was born, And though partitioned India, which Sri Aurobindo said it's not a gift I like, and then he said very clearly that by whatever means the partition must and will go. And it's becoming more and more evident. You see, people say, where do you see, where do you see? Well, if you want to wait for the tree to grow fully and then say, I see it, then that's not seeing. But if you see a seed and know what's happening, you know that the tree is going to come up. Already we can see in the whole subcontinent through the turmoil that there are areas which are beginning to, split up, and paradoxically all the movement, and then they will come together by necessity, by sheer necessity of life, and they will form a confederation. So this is the second part that happened in Sri Aurobindo's, just after the war, during this period. But then, the war being over, it was not all. There was something else that had to be tackled. And the mother speaks about it later on. It's there in a message of 59. These were the children who were growing up right from the beginning, from some 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. So one day in the class, because she started taking classes, because physical preparation, then at the intellectual, spiritual level, just imagine how fortunate. So in 51 onwards, mother is taking their classes. So at one point she says, why is there so much unconsciousness in them? This sample of humanity which has come, directly the Divine Mother is engaged. She is taking some of their classes, French classes, some of the classes, and they would send their notebooks and she would sign it. Why there is so much unconsciousness? So she enters into their consciousness and she discovered the inconscient foundation which still holds back. And that's where she goes and releases a spring out of which seeds of new creation come up. And then she gave that message, and finally she stopped the classes, because now it was completely a direct action of the supramental on the very physical body which she took upon herself, could alone annihilate the difficulty. So she took it another step further. But this dark foundation of the inconscient, Sri Aurobindo saw. And when he saw that even after the war, during the war, there were people who were taking side of Hitler in their ignorant ways, that, oh, it's very good because India is under British, the Germans are bashing the British. So Shatru ka Mitra, Shatru ka Shatru Mitra, Panchtantra, they had all read. They had not understood Gita, where dharma is important. Panchatantra is a purely political thing. But Gita is about dharma. It is not about Shatru and Mitra. It's about dharma. What is dharma? So they were, and Sri Aurobindo at one point had to tell them that, look, if you want Hitler to come and take over the ashram, tell me, I will close it. You don't have to do this. So he discovered that it's not people. They were not receptive, not open. So mother says, instead of blaming human beings, he went down into the inconscient to correct it there. So he plunged towards that dark inconscient base, because that was the only way it seems that the whole thing could be set right. And as he plunged, there is a very interesting poem which speaks about the inconscient foundation. Now basically it is like there is a superconscient, the shadow is the inconscient. And what happened with the inconscient? Inconscient holds all the possibilities of the superconscient within it. Why? Because it is the superconscient who veiled itself and became this. Now those possibilities have to come out through creation. All manifestation is about that. So now in that emergence, something from above comes and touches it, and one step follows. Then something else comes, touches it, and another step follows. Beautifully describes in Savitri that life ran down, hearing matters cry, when the young gods yearned for release. But as it comes, first thing is inconscient holds it and says, I won't let you go. It's literally the match of kabaddi which goes on. So in kabaddi, what happens? You go into that other person's den. And now the trick is you have to touch and come back. But it holds you. It doesn't let you come. But there are those who ultimately, they say, okay, if you are ala Akshay Kumar, so you are held by 10 people and suddenly you make a leap and all of them are out. So something like that happened. And it's the story of evolution. Same thing now. The greater consciousness has come and inconscient will try to grip it and turn it to its own use as everything. Mother has even said that there will be an effort to turn Sri Aurobindo into a religion. But it cannot be. And then she cautions, you must know that the Lord is wise and compassionate. and great. He is not, it will try to give a cruel turn to the whole thing. New race, elite. Others, they are lesser people. It's not in that sense. Elite doesn't mean in this sense of superiority. The elite are they who, though they are the Sreshta, yet lean down. The higher kind shall lean to lift up men. So there will be an effort. So inconscient wants to take a grip. So every time it takes that new light into grip, there is a wrestle. And then there is a help. That's the whole story. So these original New Age children, these souls plunged into the darkness to bring out and release step by step all the things that are hidden inside it, the divine possibility. The divine himself is hidden. And the divine mother is there. So this is the game going on. It has reached a point where now the final plunge should take place, where we must, at least there should be a certain number of people completely released from the grip of the inconscient. And that's what in the mother's language is called as resurrection. So resurrection is where you are completely released from the inconscient and you don't have any more karmas. Just imagine. There is no bond of karma because you are floating in light. The mother describes all this. In fact, she speaks about it even as her first experience after meeting Sri Aurobindo. And then she says that in volume 3 it is there, resurrection. It means no karmas. Why? Because you are conscious that you are not doing anything. It is the divine who is doing, flowing through you, all the things that are happening. There is no karma incurred. Just imagine that is one of the challenges of this evolution, because the Lord tells Savitri that the link will be gone, because through karma it's not just about individuals. Karma connects the whole collectivity. So what happens if in the middle of collectivity there is a freak who is not bound by karma and yet is engaged in karma? So what happens to the links that are formed? So all that was the challenge they had taken. So Sri Aurobindo plunges into the inconscient foundation, and this is the poem with which we'll stop today. My soul regards its veiled subconscious base from where it has emerged, where it had plunged, all the dead obstinate symbols of the past. So the past, and this is something to do also with the school, because all that heredity, atavism, mankind is burdened by all that. The hereditary molds, the stamps of the race, are upheld to sight. The old imprints effaced. In a downpour of supernal light it reads the black inconscient's enigmatic script. So as he plunged, he saw all the stamps of the race, all the memories, all the battles, wars, everything which is buried there. In Savitri, death shows to Savitri, this is the fate, and all of it is here. So he sees them, releases them, and brings up before his sight and pours the light there. Recorded in 100 shadowy screeds, an inert world's obscure, enormous drift. All flames is torn and burned and cast away. This is what she wants. This is one of her actions which we don't realize, because they are occult action. All who turn to her, she tweaks the karmas. She says at one point, grace can completely efface karma, annul karma. So she starts tweaking it because it's old formats of the ignorance. After all, what is karma? Karma done in ignorance. Then it becomes a habit and a pattern. So you tend to do it. And actually, if karmic law is all, then there is no hope for man, because what you have done is a groove. And it's not easy to get rid. So she starts entering and one by one starts burning them away. So that's what he said. All flames is torn and burned and cast away. Here slept the tables of the ignorance. So she is removing them. That's how the nature changes. There the dumb dragon addicts offer sway. The scriptures of necessity and chance. Pure is the huge foundation now and rude. Pure is the huge foundation now and nude, a boundless mirror of God's infinitude. So it must be cleared, this black base, dark base, and it should become a mirror reflecting God's delight. So this is the work Sri Aurobindo started around the same period, because while India was free and while the world was reeling and at the same time recovering from the second great war, in fact, the two great wars. Now, all this has got buried into the inconscient, and this raises a question. Often I've asked, see, First World War set the trend for the Second World War. Now, Second World War, and during that period of India's partition, so much went, human nature with all its agony is at the worst. Never before it had happened, this kind of agony. Now, what happens to this? It should have stayed somewhere. Why is it that when we look at the world from 60s, it is taking an upward turn? What happened to all that? So somebody drank all of it like poison. And that chapter we'll read next time. But today we close with life. O life, thy breath is but a cry. He wants to establish here the life divine. O life, thy breath is but a cry to the light. Immortal, whence has come thy swift delight, thy grasp? All things in vain thy hand sees. Earth's music fails, the notes cease or rasp. Aloud thou callest to blind fate, remove the bar, the gold gate, unhasp. Life is always seeking after perfection, but somewhere it meets a bar and it's unable to find it. But never hast thou the goal yet of thy race neared, nor thrilled with the ineffable face, the clasp. Life is another. So now what should it be? Life, mystic daughter of delight, life, thou ecstasy, let the radius of thy flight be eternity. So all these limits within which we are made to think. When a child is born, he is given an identity card and a job by the parents before he has to do something else. The identity card is his religion and all those things, and the job is already given, engineer, doctor. I don't know, it's become not, no, doctor is now very fashionable. And even if you are in pharma company, it is like most parents would be wanting, because the shares are going to rise. So this is how we fix it. But he's reminding us, let thy flight be eternity. On thy wings thou bearest high glory and disdain, Godhead and mortality, ecstasy and pain. Take me in thy bold embrace without weak reserve. This is a wonderful poem, but just quickly I am reading it, that life is a vast, all-encompassing movement. It's not just, this division of life into sacred and profane. Everything must be taken up and transformed and offered and changed. Body dire and unveiled face, faint not, life, nor swerve. All thy bliss I would explore, all thy tyranny, cruel like the lion's roar, sweet like springtide bee. The Saumyata and Raudra, both aspects. So that's what perfection is, the totality, but lifted to the divine heights. Like a titan I would take, like a god enjoy. People are frightened, when they read this line. Oh, enjoyment should not be spoken about. Like a god enjoy. How does God enjoy? He doesn't need to possess to enjoy. He gets the essence of things. But we to enjoy want it. This is mine, then only I will enjoy. Like a god enjoy. But like a titan take. Everything you take and receive within yourself. But don't claim or possess that way. You take like that. Like a titan I would take, like a god enjoy, like a man contend and make. Revel like a boy. All these aspects in us. More I will not ask of thee, nor my fate would choose. King or conquered, let me be. Vanquish life or lose. And then comes these 4 wonderful lines which Mother has read. And this what we should always realize and remember. So in India we have 2 sides of God. One is Krishna, the Dwarkadhish, and second is Shiva in, Mrigichala and sitting in Kailash, the ascetic. Even in rags, I am a God. This is the teaching of the East. Even in rags, I am a God. Fallen, I am divine. High I triumph when downtrod. Long I live. when slain. So we'll stop here and continue next time.